Hi, I'm Rachel Becker, and this is Dry Ink, the Index podcast that takes you behind the scenes of the Truman State University student-run newspaper. In case we haven't met, I'm Rachel Becker, incoming editor-in-chief of the Index. I've been working at the Index my entire college career, so I am honored to be able to take over this role. You'll be hearing more from me since I'll be taking over as the host of this podcast for the next year. Today, I'll be talking with Ryan Pavoni, outgoing editor-in-chief of the Index, as he reflects on his experiences in the newsroom and gives us a preview of where he plans to go after Truman. So this is the first podcast I'm hosting of Dry Ink. So first off, do you have any advice to tell me about how to host the podcast?
How to host a podcast? Yeah. I guess just make it more conversational. The more it's like a conversation, I think the better the podcast is. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So how long have you been at the Index and just working at the Index, I guess?
Yeah, so I've been at the Index for 4 years. I joined the first semester of my freshman year, a couple weeks into the semester. And that was kind of by chance. I was kind of interested in joining a student publication, and I knew that, but I didn't really know which one. So I ended up just finding somebody on the quad who was tabling for the Index, and I asked them how to join, and it turned out to be a perfect fit because, like I said, I've been here for 4 years, and I moved up from staff writer, a staff news writer, my freshman year to my sophomore year, I was the news editor, and then second semester, sophomore year, I moved up to managing editor, and then junior year, I took on the editor-in-chief role, and I've been doing that for 2 years now, and that's been a ton of fun.
What have you learned from your position as editor-in-chief?
I think that's a great question, but maybe the number one thing I learned is to never stop asking questions. And not just of your sources, like obviously ask questions of your sources and keep asking those questions. That's great. But ask questions of, your advisors, your professors, ask questions of your friends and your peers, and even the university administration. You should even be asking yourself questions often. I realized that personal reflection in your position is super helpful. And I think curiosity is just tremendously difficult to inspire or cultivate. So if you find something that you're passionate about, for me, and I'm sure for you, Rachel, too, that's journalism. But so when I found that, I wanted to continually find new ways to engage and learn about it. And so joining the Index was just the perfect outlet to do that. And I don't think that's something that I fully realized until I was editor-in-chief of the Index. It's an incredible job, and I had so much fun leading the staff. You get a lot of people asking you questions, which is tremendous. It's a tremendous opportunity to shape the paper and create an environment where, student media feels comfortable pursuing tough stories or writing about stories or ideas that they kind of come up with or create on their own. So yeah, that's super important. I would say along with that, though, I think it's really shaped the way I look at the world. Story ideas, I feel are just constantly jumping out at me. And it makes me so excited to be able to share those stories of, triumph, heartbreak, or frustration and bliss that is happening within the community. So yeah, that's super important. And that's something that, I'll forever keep with me. And so, it's super awesome that I got to experience that through the Index.
What is something you'd want to tell your community of readers who have been with you for the past 4 years?
Yeah, just a big thank you. I've talked to countless students, faculty, staff, administration, community members, local business owners, government officials, and they've all been super helpful in sharing the stories of the community, which is such a blessing, really. You don't always find that within a community, that they're so open or willing to share their stories. So I'm super grateful that the Kirksville community was so helpful in doing that. And I'd also say, a big thank you for being understanding as well. We are journalists as student media, but we're also students. And I think it's important to remember that the Index is a learning lab. That's something that you and I talk about often. It's a place where students can be practicing these skills, and often it's the first time that they're practicing it and getting published. So mistakes do slip through, and I'm so grateful that the community holds us accountable and are gracious and understanding when we do get something wrong, and we do have to go back and fix it.
Of course. So can you tell me a little bit about why the Index matters to you?
Yeah, so I think student media is so important. It's really an honor to lead this paper that's been around for over 100 years. It represents the student perspective on campus in many ways. You're often talking to students to get their perspective on a story or something that's happening at the university. But you're also a student yourself, so you have a perspective and a way of covering that somebody else, like local media or university PR office just doesn't have. So I think that's super important. And I also think that the Index acts as a forum for discussion many times, which is an important function that we serve. I think about this mental health piece that I wrote, I believe it was my sophomore year, in which students and administration largely communicated through the Index. And I thought that was really special because students were expressing concern about changes that were happening with UCS, and really it was kind of more of a misunderstanding. And so when we brought that to the administrators' attention, they kind of helped quell that frustration, and we got to kind of connect these two groups who were, having kind of like a tough time with each other. So that was really awesome. And I also think that the Index is a way to help address some of those institutional memory issues that are so prevalent at universities like Truman. I think it's really easy as students cycle through to forget that, something happened 4 years ago that really shaped and changed how the university looks at something, or how we act about, a certain issue or something. So I think it's really helpful that, students can have this kind of written record of how we looked at certain issues, or how we covered, mental health or residence life or anything like that. And that's super awesome.
I absolutely agree. I think all of those things really empower student media and empower TMN as a whole, as we've been working with it for the past few years. Now, what advice do you have for freshman Ryan if you were able to look back at yourself and talk to yourself as a freshman?
Probably get more involved. I think I only did like 3 extracurricular activities my freshman year, and I ended up dropping 2 of those and just doing the Index after my freshman year. But I think the Index really served as my outlet to explore the community and engage with different people, and ultimately make my mark at Truman. But getting more involved could have strengthened that, I think, tremendously. I would have really liked to pitch more of my own story ideas. Not that the stories I covered my freshman year were bad, but you can only cover so many sidewalk improvement stories before you start thinking about other stories that may be a bit more impactful that you could try out instead. And I kind of realize that now, but that would have been good advice for me freshman year.
Of course, that makes sense. Now, do you want to explain to the listeners what your next steps are, or where you're going after graduation?
Yeah. So after graduation, starting in late May, I'll be joining the fantastic newsroom at the Jefferson City News Tribune as their state government reporter at the state capitol. So I'll be covering the executive branch, all of its agencies, the legislature, and the area's 2 publicly funded higher education institutions. And I'll also be doing some occasional general assignment reporting. So I'm very excited for that. I'll be joining some other Truman and Index alum as well. So that's pretty cool. And I think I'll definitely be sharing more on Twitter. My Twitter account is @RyanPavoni. So if you wanted to follow along, you can do that there. But yeah, it'll be an exciting opportunity, I think.
That sounds really exciting, and best of luck to you there. And thank you so much for talking with me today. A little bit of a reflection about how it was being EIC.
Of course. Thanks, Rachel.
Here's what else you need to know today. Baltimore Street, one of the main arteries of Kirksville, will be under construction for the next several months. The Missouri Department of Transportation is overseeing the project as a state-owned road. Ashley Young, the Kirksville city manager, said construction should be finished by the end of 2021. The city of Kirksville initiated the Downtown Revitalization Program since 2019, aiming to bring new life to the downtown area. The main component of this program is to renovate and restore the facades of the downtown area. The program involves new additions to the downtown area, such as benches, trash cans, and trees along the streets. Also included are improvements to the pedestrian infrastructure, such as sidewalks and street lights. That same downtown revitalization program can be seen under construction in the historic downtown area. Our senior staffers have been working hard at writing farewell columns to all the readers and listeners of the Index. Check those out at tmn.truman.edu, and thanks for listening.